So I double sold something this week on eBay and Poshmark, and I want to tell you about this situation because I feel like I kind of got screwed by Poshmark, and I'm not happy about it. So, hi everybody. If you are new here, my name is Malika, and I'm a part-time reseller. I sell on Poshmark, eBay, and I also sell on Mercari and Depop, or at least I try to. They don't really like me as much, but yeah. So I sell on those different platforms, and this is my weekly source and sold video. So I am going to talk to you about all of the different things that I sourced and sold, and this is for the week of February 15th through 21st. But I want to specifically share about this situation, this double sold situation, because I'm not happy about it. I think that it's something that if you are also a reseller, it's helpful to hear about. I've heard other resellers who do videos talk about something similar. And so I just want to add my voice out there to the situation. And I've also told Poshmark all of this as well. So what I'm telling all of you out there in YouTube world, I've also said to them directly. So the situation was I had a piece that actually had been listed for quite some time and it sold on Saturday on eBay. And once it sold on eBay, I went to my Nifty tool. I use Nifty, which is a tool that helps me to cross list across the different platforms. It helps me with delisting and relisting. So I immediately went to Nifty after I saw that the piece sold on eBay and went to delist it. And on Nifty, it notified me it was delisting. Well, within a couple of hours, I get a notification from Poshmark saying that your piece has sold. And so I was confused. I didn't understand because I had delisted on Nifty. And from what I could tell, everything on Nifty's and looked good. Well, what I didn't realize is that another tool that I use, Posher VA, that I use for sending out auto likes and bulk likes to offers, or I'm sorry, to likers. So people who like the things that I have listed, if they give me a like, then Posher VA automatically sends them an offer. And apparently, this same piece, someone had liked it within that 24-hour period of it selling, and Posher VA had sent out a like. Well, what happens with Poshmark is that if you try and delist something that has an active offer, which this did because Posher VA had sent out an offer, they won't let you delist it because they say you cannot delist when there's an active offer, which leaves you stuck. And I think that this is just not a great policy. Well, because I'm using these tools that are helping me, and I have to use these tools to help me because I don't have the capacity to do all this on my own. There wasn't a way for me to see directly or know directly that these things had happened. Although I think that I would have done the same thing. Like if somebody had liked the piece and I wasn't using a tool to do it, I also would have just clicked to offer it. Um, the only thing different I would have known is that it hadn't been delisted, but I still had no recourse because Poshmark just simply will not let you delist something that has an active offer. And that's fine. Like if that's your policy, that's your policy. Where I have a bone to pick with them is that I can't contact the potential buyer to let them know that it's sold somewhere else. So now we're like having to go through the exercise of them saying, great, this person made this offer to me. I'm going to go ahead and accept it and buy this thing for them to me to go turn around to them and say, oops, sorry. No, actually, you can't buy it because it's sold somewhere else. Like, give me the opportunity to go to that person beforehand before they actually accept my offer to say, I'm sorry, it just sold somewhere else. I mean, I don't know, maybe for some people that doesn't feel like a big deal, but to me, it would have been nice. It feels like just kind of icky customer service to have to do this part. So that's the first part of what I don't like about this situation. The second part of this is the recourse or lack thereof with Poshmark when this sort of situation is created. Because then I went to Poshmark and said, what do I do now that this piece that actually sold on another platform was purchased by someone on your system? And basically, they told me I had to cancel the order, which, okay, but now they're going to penalize me for canceling the order. And I know a lot of other resellers have talked about this because I've seen a lot of them talk about this. So I'm going to talk about it too, just in case you haven't seen it. Those of you who are out there watching, haven't seen this elsewhere. But if you have too many canceled orders on Poshmark, and it sounds like their policy on this has become more strict over the last few months. But if you have too many cancellations, your account can be suspended. And when they suspend you, from what I've heard, I never want to see this personally, but from what I've heard is like all your stuff just goes away. Whoosh, gone. And you don't know for how long it's going to be gone. I mean, the suspension, I don't think they're clear. And they don't even tell you. It's like you just go and log on and it's gone. That's at least I've heard other people say. I do not know for sure. That's what I've heard. So I would qualify it with that. But regardless, now that I have had to cancel this, they didn't give me another option in this situation. I had to make a cancel. So now I have a ding against me. And if I have too many other cancellations, I could be suspended. And this is a cancellation. I mean, I feel like some cancellations, if it's your fault, sure, I get it. They're trying to prevent people from canceling willy-nilly and, displeasing buyers. But it's like, aren't you creating a situation, though, that I'm now displeasing the buyer and I'm not happy as a seller because I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I'm paranoid that I'll have too many cancellations. And if you have not heard about this policy, what I can tell you is one, you can find the policy on the Poshmark FAQs, but specifically what it says is that you can only have up to 3% of your total sales in cancellation in a rolling 90-day period. I know that sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. What that means, though, essentially is like if you have, let's say, 100 sales over a 90-day period, then you can't have more than three cancellations because three would be 3% of 100. And in that 90 days, which is rolling. So eventually they kind of fall off after you passed a cancellation that's been over 90 days. But that rolling 90-day period, you got to monitor it because if you have to be cancellations, then you can get suspended. And we're all gonna have to cancel stuff. And I actually I would say that 3% is fair, but I just don't like that there's not caveats with Poshmark. Because the first time I canceled, and this before I knew about the policy, because I've had this is now my second cancellation, was because the person didn't realize that the sweater that they purchased from me was like a particular sleeves. And so they asked me to cancel it, which I did. I mean, I they're bad for not reading the description, but I felt partially responsible, I guess, because of the photo. So I went ahead and canceled it, but that was a ding. And so now I created another ding. And in this situation, fortunately, that situation was back in December. So it's going to roll off in March. But I don't know. I don't love that this is how Poshmark handles that. So I wanted to share that with you. Tell me in the comments if you have experienced something similar. I'd love to hear anything else. If you are like me and you come across this kind of a situation, I hope that you also are willing to let Poshmark know. I just feel like we can be kind of a strengths and numbers things to let them know if we aren't happy with these policies. I've seen other resellers that have had their accounts suspended, and it was really horrifying and upsetting, like genuinely upsetting for them. And I totally get that. And that just doesn't seem right. I mean, we're all, or not all of us, but many of us are doing this by ourselves, and it's just kind of a not fair setup, in terms of not being able to contact the buyers, not having certain caveats around how much you cancel, not being able to deless when there's an active offer. I mean, it's like all of it combined. Just like I felt like they kind of screwed me, but anyway, so that's that. That's my story on the double sold. I'll show you the piece later. But now we'll get into what I source. So again, we're covering the week of February 15th through 21st. So let's go ahead and get into it. So if this is your first time joining me for one of my weekly source and sold videos, during this section, when I talk about what I source, I usually do it in a countdown form. I did not source a ton of things last week, and I only sourced at my neighborhood thrift store. I've been talking about this for weeks. Had every intention of going to the bins more because I'm trying to lower my cost of goods, and I have not been very good at it. But I am going to the bins tomorrow, and I might do a haul video on that if it turns out well. Regardless, here we are. I'm going to do this as a top five, but I have bunched some things into categories. Not everything is the category. I'm kind of all over the place, but here we are. I don't know, maybe too much coffee this morning. Whatever. Okay, so let's start with my number 5. I'm going to call this category bread and butters that I picked up. So starting with these Halara flare pants. I love picking up Halara. Halara is 100% a bread and butter for me. These are really great. They're just like a transition from work to casual pants. They're really nice. They're like a taupey color, kind of grayish, but taupey. And they're flared at the bottom. I usually sell Halara between 20 and 30. I think I'll be on the higher end of that since these are newer and they do have that workwear look. So I'm going to make sure to use keywords that draw that type of buyer in. But yeah, I love selling Halara. It moves really fast for me, and I'm willing to pay a little bit more because they're usually fairly quick flips, the right Halara pants. I usually will pay and I paid for these, I think like between $5.50 and $6, but I'll pay anywhere up to the $8 even for Halara because they really fast for me. So anyway, that's part of my 5 with the bread and butter. My other part of my 5 with bread and butter top, or my number 5, is this. This is a Banana Republic extra large new metallic jacket. And this is like, I think, probably a really great transitional piece for someone who's moving out of winter into spring. It is not super heavy, but it definitely will help you keep warm. It's got these buttons that are kind of the hidden button look with this cover over it. It's just really nice. It's like a newer Banana Republic. It's got the new also logo on it, but this is just really cute. It's a great size. I love this piece, and I paid up a little bit for it, but I also think that we're in a really good season for this again as we're transitioning out of winter into spring. So I'm hopeful for this. I'm not listening yet, but it'll go up in it. So that's the second part of my number 5, which is bread and butter pieces that I found. My number 4 is one piece specifically, which is Prana. And this is a large Prana wave sweater, a sleeveless sweater. And I think that this is just such a great piece for spring. It's 100% cotton. Prana always has their little tag on the back right there. I have a couple of other Prana pieces in my closet. I have yet to sell them. I get a lot of interest. I know at some point they'll go, so I'm not super worried about it. But I want to keep also buying and picking up Prana pieces because I think that their values as a company align with my own. Like it's a lot of organic products or materials, and I just really like that about them. So this just is a really cute piece. It's actually relatively new. I think it came out in 2023. This specific sweater was from 2023, but it's still out on their site. It's currently listed at $78 on their site. I'm hoping this is in fantastic condition. It's not new, but it's in really good condition. So I'm hoping I'll get between 20 and 25 for this piece. So that is my number 4, Prana. My number 3 is a group, and it's floral dresses. I'm definitely still working on getting things both up for spring and summer. So I bought a few floral dresses for that purpose. So this first one is CC, which is a Nordstrom in-house brand. I like CC. I wear CC. I don't think that CC is like a really big seller on the platforms, but I have sold some CC pieces, including some of my things out of my own closet. You'll see this is sheer and there's lining here, but this is so flowy, just fun and pretty for summer, drapey. It's a great size. It's a large and great like cottage core, beachy, that kind of vibe. I feel really confident about how this one will perform. I don't think it will necessarily fetch a really high number because again, CC does not, it doesn't even retail for super high, even though it is a Nordstrom in-house brand, but it does do pretty well in this with the right style, and which I think will do pretty. So that is part of my number 3. The next floral piece I picked up with another brand I like to sell, which is Banana Republic. This is Banana Republic Factory, But this is just a really basic green floral midi dress, V-neck, short sleeved. It's gathered at the waist and it's really simple. It's just a very simple piece. This is not something I'm expecting to get a lot from, hopefully 20 or so. But it's just a really nice little piece for spring for someone. It's got this ruchy elastics on the top. Cute dress and it's a great size. It's an extra large. I'm pretty happy with that. And then my last one on the florals that I picked up is an interesting brand that I have not sold before, and it is Julia Jordan. And this is a size 14, also a really good size. And this is a midi length. I would say I'm tall, I'm 5'10, and when I put it up to me, it's like it's just above my knees. So I think for most people, this would be midi. And it's got like this bow, so you can tie a bow on the front, which I think is pretty trendy right now. But sheer, look, I don't know how well that's going to come to camera, but this is all sheer. It's fully lined underneath. Really simple, just drapes on the body. This will be really cute for someone. I was not familiar with Julia Jordan or Julie Jordan, but I looked it up, Julia Jordan. Looked it up and these dresses sell Nordstrom was actually the first place that came up and then their website. But these dresses actually sell or retail for anywhere from like $128 into the 200s. So they retail pretty high, but when I looked at comps were all over the place and they weren't really necessarily a very good sell-through rate. But I feel pretty confident about this in terms of how I can market it. But I think if I can market it right, we should go for a pretty good price. So I'm hoping 30-ish for this. If I get 30 to 40, I mean, comps are anywhere from like 20 to 25 all the way into the hundreds. Now it seemed to be like more substantial dresses that were in the hundreds, but if I can get like 30, 35 for this, I'll be quite pleased with this one because I got this for less than the other two. Actually, this was less expensive. So that is my number three, my floral dress. Let's go into my number two, which is such a cool, funky piece, but this velvet jacket blazer from Sundance. Sundance, such a great brand. I don't find Sundance very often. I wish I did. I have another really great Sundance dress in my closet that hasn't sold yet. It gets lots of interest in now that the weather's shifting. That will sell too. But this piece is just this really cool velvet blazer, and it's actually made out of viscose and silk. And I'm really hoping the silk factor is going to help this one. But this, I think, is going to be a really specific buyer, someone who's really into sort of this vintage style look, really kind of funky vibe. I mean, there's a lot of the velvet and crushed velvet interest right now. So I'm hopeful that this will go and it just needs to find the right buyer. This is an amazing shape. The inside, this floral pattern is 100% cotton. So the materials on this are fabulous. And it's just a really cool looking blazer. I mean, I love this piece. So this was my number two pick, this Sunday velvet blazer. Oh, right. My number one was something I was really excited to sell. I've shared this in previous videos, but I have started to spend a lot of time looking in the accessories section at the wallets and bags because I'm noticing, at least in my thrift store, they will really undervalue a lot of leather goods. And so I found this tote bag, and it is by I had not heard of this. Dagny Dover. Let's see, make sure you can see that. Dagny Dover, when I looked this up in terms of pricing, is comparable to like a Rebecca Minkoff, not quite as high as a Kate Spade or Marc Jacobs, but close. Like I would say Rebecca Minkoff level. This is a really nice tote bag. You'll see it's definitely meant for somebody to carry for work. So it's got like, this is where you could put your laptop or your iPad. It's got phone spot. It's got spots for your pens. This is just really nice, well made. It's got the bottom little feet on it. Really quite quality. And look at the feet. Like it's got like the little like pyramid looking the design of it. The coated fabric And it is just a really substantial, nice structured piece. So I would also say be on the lookout for Dagny Dover. They have this look when I went on their website. There's a definite distinct look to their bags. They've got this little emblem symbol on them, and then they've got this Dagny Dover. So I paid about $8 for this, and I was looking at comps, and this one does seem to have a pretty good sell-through rate, but comps are anywhere like from 80 to $100. Really excited about this one. So this is my number one piece that I sourced this week, Dagny Dover. Okay. That's all I wanted to share with you on that. So let's go ahead and move in with the sales week. All right, so it was a slow sales week. I had a total of 9 sales, and my sales were split between eBay and Poshmark again, none on Macari, none on Depop. If you've been here before, you've heard me lament that I am just not getting traction on Macari and Depop. In my last source and sold video, I think I shared that I don't know that I'll ever do well on Macari because the buyer and mix with my business model. I don't know if there's a good mix there. And I actually had experience in this week that I'll share next week, sourced and sold, that definitely played into that. I had a very unpleasant encounter with a buyer on Macari. So yeah, didn't make me really get excited about continuing to sell there. But anyway, eBay and Poshmark they're still being my steady eddies. But yeah, slow week with 9. But let's get into what specifically sold, because as always, I continue to be grateful and thrilled about every sale, and I just am continuing to learn new things every week. So here we go.
Okay, so the week started off super slow. I had no sales on the 15th, but then on the 16th, I had 3 sales. And the first sale that day were these boots. They are Merrell Moab waterproof hiking boots. And I picked these up during my last bin haul. And this was just a really great pair of boots. They were in really good condition, looked fantastic. They sold after being listed for 5 days, and they sold for 40. I initially had them listed for 49.90. Somebody made an offer for 40. I accepted. They were men's boots and they were kind of a smaller size, so I worried about them sitting long. So I 40 felt like a good price, and so I sold them for 40. My earnings was $28.01 after eBay took their fees. My cost of goods on this, they do a flat rate at my bins for all shoes. And so with the tax, that flat rate is $3.77. So my cost of goods on these boots was $3.77. So after taking that out of my earnings, my profit on the boots was $24.24. All right, so moving on to my second sale of the 26, also came from that same bins haul, and it was this beautiful blue and white smocked maxi dress. This is the brand Jaffna, which I don't know really if that brand is really the one to know. I don't really necessarily think it is. I certainly picked this up based on the style. This was listed for 7 days and sold for $22. Sold on Poshmark. And after Poshmark took their 20% fee, which they always take the flat 20%, my earnings was $17.60. And my average cost of goods, that's always how I do this, is I look at the average cost of goods on the bins haul, and that's how I subtract it out of my earnings to get my profit. So my average cost of goods on that bins haul was $1.52. And so that made my profit on this piece $16.08. My final sale on the 16th was something that had sat in my closet forever. I think I picked this up in the very first thrift haul I ever did. Like when I first really did a haul, this was part of it. But I did believe in this dress. I knew it was going to sell one day, but it sure did take a long time. Anyway, this was a Jones, New York purple chiffon dress. It was in beautiful, like new condition. I had hoped that being a petite was going to help it out. It just was really giving Mother of the Bride vibes. Anyway, it finally sold this week on the 16th, and it was listed for 122 days. I think that's officially my record now for how the longest thing I've had listed that sold. The sales price on this was $28, and my earnings after Poshmark takes their fee was $22.40. Cost of goods on this was $4.45. So that made my profit on this piece $17.95. Even though this sat, I feel pretty good about that. So that was it for the 16th. On the 17th, once again, I had no sales. Yeah, so then moving on to the 18th, I had two sales. It was just like very up and down this week. I would have no sales and then like a clump of sales and then no sales and then like a clump of sales. So here we go. On the 18th, I sold these cut from the cloth denim utility shorts. These were from a Ben's pickup. I did a video about the Ben's haul that I picked these up from. I was calling it my mid Ben's haul because I just felt like most of the stuff I got from that was just like really mid. There was nothing super exciting. But I will say, I mean, I love selling cut from the cloth. I did not list these right away because these were actually only listed for 2 days before they sold, which I really was surprised they went that fast. But just a really cute basic short. My experience with cut from the cloth is great. I sell cut from the cloth really well at really solid prices. For me, my experience is they hold their value. Would love to hear from other people. Like, what do you have? Like, do you have that same experience from cut from the cloth too? I don't know. I just really positive for me, but these were listed for $28. They ended up selling for $25.20, which was great. My earnings on these after eBay took their fees was $21.12. And my average cost of goods on that Ben's haul was $2.90, which is just so high. But again, there's just a really expensive Ben's in the Bay Area that honestly I'm not sure I'll spend much time going to anymore. But anyway, $2.90 still for some shorts is a good deal. But my profit on this after taking out the cost of goods was $18.22. So yeah, feel really good about that. All right, my second sale of the 18th, and I did not have that in the right place, so let me move that over, were these pants. Interesting. This is another one that I had for a really long time. This was me still learning. I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable with sharing this because I would never pick these pants up now. But this is back when I saw, ooh, this is brand new with tags. I thought that really was super advantageous, and now realize that if it's not the right brand, it's just not helpful, even if they're new with tags. So I paid, certainly, I got these at a 50% off, but I paid more than I should have. So this was almost a loss. But anyway, let me stop babbling. Gloria Vanderbilt black classic fit jeans, new with tags. They were nice jeans, but I just don't think there's a huge market for these. But fortunately, there was that buyer out there for them. They were listed for a total of 92 days. The brand Gloria Vanderbilt, and I sold them for $10 because I really had reached a point that I was like, I just want these out. I don't want them anymore. So when somebody made a $10 offer, I was like, okay. My earnings after eBay took their fees, $6.88. Cost of goods, $5.79. And my profit on these lovely pants was $1.09. So almost a loss, not quite a loss. I actually thought I'd lost money, but turns out I didn't. Anyway, I made my money back. I'm not mad at that at all. That was my last sale on the 18th. Moving on to the 19th, once again, 0 sales. And then we got to the 20th, and I did have a sale, so let's go to that. I accidentally went on this already, but it was this Christian LaCroix brown polka dot dress that was featured as one of my favorites from what I sourced the prior week, the first week of the month. And this is just such a beautiful polka dot dress. It has so many things going for it. Christian LaCroix, great, fantastic brand. It's actually a luxury brand. This is not part of the luxury pieces of Christian LaCroix, but still a nice piece. I sold it for 40. I think I originally had it listed for 68, but 40 felt really good for this piece. My earnings after Poshmark fee were $32, and my cost of goods on this was $9.60. I absolutely paid up for this dress because it's Christian LaCroix. And my profit was $2.40. It was listed for 2 days. So this was a great one. Really happy about that. that was it for the 20th. And then fortunately on the 21st, I had three sales. I will tell you, I was like at the almost the end of the week. I mean, the 20th was Friday, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I am just really not having any sales. But Saturday was solid. I had three sales on Saturday. The first was this Madewell beige V-neck button cardigan. Madewell, definitely a bread and butter for me. I really like selling Madewell. I know some people feel like Madewell isn't what it used to be. I'm still new, so I don't know much about what it used to be. For me, I find that Madewell moves pretty well. This one was listed for 50 days and it sold for $25. My earnings after Poshmark took their fees were $20, and my cost of goods on this was $7.54. So my profit was $12.46. My next sale on the 21st was this Ever Lane Women's Sage quarter zip sweatshirt. This is the piece that double sold. Here it is, everybody. So this I had listed for 111 days. I hadn't looked at this when I was doing the first part of the video, but yeah, I had it listed for 111 days and it sold twice within 2 hours on Saturday. So this was, a piece I had it listed, you'll see, for $31. I really was at a point because it had been listed for so long that I was just like, yes, please take this. Because I really didn't pay much for it. But yeah, so it sold on eBay for $20 and then subsequently sold on Poshmark again within 2 hours for also $20, which is interesting. So both places it sold for the same amount. Anyway, went through on eBay. eBay, I also had used their ad thing. So it actually, their fees were a little high on this because my earnings after all of eBay's fees was $14.97, and my cost of goods was $4.32, so not bad there, and my profit ended up being $10.65. So anyway, yeah, this was the one. This is the double sale on Saturday. Okay, so my final sale on Saturday was this Banana Republic white button front cardigan. This had been something that I had sitting for a while. So I guess I've heard this called the death pile. So I did have a death pile. And if you aren't familiar with that term, the death pile is maybe you have a bunch of things that you've thrifted, or you have a bunch of stuff from different hauls and sourcing that you just have a big pile of, and it's just sitting there and you haven't done anything with it. You haven't listed it. It's just sort of sitting. And I did have some things like this included in my mind when I bought this in, like, I think December. I just was like, oh, this feels warm weather to me. And so I wasn't really anxious about listing it. But now that I know people are thinking about spring, I did get it listed, and it was only listed for 8 days before it sold. And so this to me just felt like a basic stable wardrobe piece for somebody. So sold it for $17. It's Banana Republic factory. I earned after Poshmark took their fees. All right, for those 9 sales this week, I had a total of $227.20. That's the total in all of the sales price. But what I earned after all of the platforms took out their fees was $176.58. And then I had a total cost of goods for everything that sold of $46.57, which takes me to my profit after subtracting out those cost of goods was $130.01. So that, is not where I want to be ideally. Certainly, I don't want to be there every week, but, understanding that this is an up and down game. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm trying to, figure things out as I go along. So I still feel good about that. And the other part of the story I like to look at is where I'm averaging in terms of my cost of good and my sale price. I'm shooting for an average cost of goods, as I said before, below $5, and an average sale price, I want somewhere between $25 and $30, closer to the $30, because once I've been reselling for a while, I think for me and my business model, I want to target between $30 and $40 as an average sale price. So with that said, this last week, my average cost of goods was $5.17. So I wasn't too far off. Thankfully, things from Vin's hauls sold. And my average sales price was $25.24. So I was in that window. So that feels good, certainly. I'm doing the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. and it'll come. So that's all I have for this week. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell me in the comments what was maybe some of the things that you sourced this week that you thought was pretty great, or that you think would be cool things for people to know about. Did you have any interesting experiences on stuff that you sold? Would love to hear from you. If you've made it this far, I just am so appreciative for you watching my videos. I'm here every week doing these weekly sourced and sold. I'm noticing that my viewership is starting to grow. So if you are new here, or if you've been with me, thank you so much. I'd love to hear more about the kind of stuff people want to see. I have no idea. I don't really have a good sense yet, since I'm still new on YouTube, like who my audience is for these videos. So the more I can find out, the more I want to tailor what I'm saying and talking about and showing to the people who are watching. So let me know. Let me know what kind of stuff you're interested in. Let me know where you are. Are you someone who is new like me, or you've been doing this a while, or you don't do it at all? You just kind of like watching this stuff, or like fun? Because I know I like super enjoy watching what people have purchased and are shopping for, whether it's thrifting or anything else. So I know I personally find it super satisfying to watch other people's videos. So if there's stuff you'd like to see from me, let me know. I am having a great time. I'm really appreciative of anybody who is watching, truly, truly. And if you did enjoy this, please give me a like. If you want to come back for more, then subscribe. I'm here every week doing these weekly source and souls. And then I also have one or two other videos that I'll do later in the week, just sharing what I'm learning along the way, and also sometimes sharing about different hauls. I've bought some boxes. I think I'm going to buy some more boxes in the future. But yeah, would love to have you back. Love to have you with me. And just thanks again. And until the next time, take care.